So Jonathan Hardin is a school resource cop at the only all-boy public middle school, Olmsted Academy North Middle School. This is the picture of Jonathan Hardin here. He's a police officer with the LMPD. Again, with the LMPD. So this case is actually fascinating because he was arrested and he's been put on charge. He was arrested and they're putting him through the same system that all these other people seem to blindly back. So we have here even Steve Conrad, the police chief, is saying that he is basically throwing the book at Jonathan Hardin. This case is wild because it reminds me of David Whitlock. It wasn't too many years ago when a constable in Louisville was trying to catch a shoplifter, I think at a Walmart, and when they tried to run away, he opened fire and shot them. Now, he's a constable. He was right in terms of constitutionally. Constitutionally, he has a right. He has the power to arrest. And therefore, he is just as powerful as the sheriff or the coroner or, sheriff, coroner, or the jailer. They all have the power to arrest in Kentucky. The constable is actually a good position because it's elected. And in his district, he is the sheriff in his district. Now, why this case here with Jonathan Hardin reminds me of that David Whitlock case is because the establishment is eating one of their own. This is one of their own, okay? So when Steve Conrad does what he's supposed to do, I was assaulted, I was beat up, $30,000 in medical bills. They about nearly ruined my life. They ruined my face. I still have breathing problems today. And so there's no crimes. It's not a crime to go around beating people up for no reason. If a citizen was to go out and just beat up a police officer for no reason, is that a crime? Of course it is. That's all you got to do to check to see if something is just. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so let's talk about this case, and let's talk about some of the details. Okay, so let's go with the details. So Jonathan Hardin, he's a school resource officer. He's 31 years old, and there's two incidents that had actually happened with him at the Olmsted Academy North Middle School. Two incidents, and the first one was somebody had jumped in line. They had jumped in line, and he immediately got in there, punched the kid in the face. Right? Hey, how dare you jump in line? Now I just punched you in the face. This is the culture of the LMPD. This guy is going to get in trouble for the same thing David Whitlock got in trouble for, even though he is acting very much in consistent protocol. This is the policy of the LMPD. You use violence first. You escalate situations. You don't try to de-escalate them. And of course you're supposed to hit kids. Of course you're supposed to hit children. That's, of course, This state is #1 for child deaths and child abuse cases. So there are people who are beating their kids up here until they die. They beat their kids up until they die. That's Kentucky. And so since the parents are doing it, the cops think it's an acceptable way to do it too. The teachers are into 100% compliance. I've seen a video. There's a video of him choking this kid out, okay? So the first incident is a kid jumps in line, cuts somebody in line. And I remember somebody cutting in line, and it does make you mad because it's like, hey, everybody else is so orderly. How come you're not so orderly? And it does deprive people behind the line of, they were there first. And so I could feel him on that, but to punch a kid in the face, that seems a bit too much, right? So then you have he's playing with this kid. So a 13-year-old was going to do a chest bump with him, and he was just playing with him. I guess he had talked to him and played around with him a little bit, and when he did the chest bump, the police officer fell down, and that was really the biggest crime right there. He was humiliated. A little 13-year-old was able to knock a 31-year-old down to the ground. And so, of course, what does a man of policy, a man of official capacity, how do they react? Well, they react violently, and they know what to do with violence, and so he took the 13-year-old and he picked him up and he put an Eric Garner chokehold on him until he passed out, 6 seconds, and then he passed out. And then eventually he woke up because, and the kids were in line walking past him, about half the class just walks by this entire incident, and then eventually a few kids at the very end sees that the kid went limp, and that he was passed out, and that he wasn't breathing, or that he was breathing, but he was unconscious. And so, you know, he went too far. He went too far. Punching a kid in the face for cutting in line, that's not proportional. That's not acceptable behavior. And so, you know, what does Steve Conrad do? So actually, the public integrity investigation was immediately initiated as soon as the allegations of criminal wrongdoing by Officer Jonathan Hardin were brought to our attention by JCPS. Further investigation determined the allegations to be egregious, necessary to present to the Jefferson County Attorney's Office for review. They went ahead and issued an arrest warrant for Jonathan Hardin, charging him with the assault in the first, wanton endangerment in the first degree, official misconduct, first and second degree, another assault charge in the fourth degree, and false swearing. So these are enhancement charges. He assaulted another kid. He should lose his job. Now, he's a police officer. That means he's above the law. He's allowed to go around beating people up and shooting and killing them. So what is the deal? Why is Steve Conrad, he's covering his butt? And how do you cover your butt? Well, you cover it up with, you know, not just a little bit of underwear, but with, you know, overalls and underneath garments, just like 5 layers of clothing, right? When you're covering your butt up. So he's going to charge him with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 charges. 6 charges. After, I mean, he put the kid in a chokehold. So that's, you know, that's assault and possibly attempted murder. You know, and so in a way he's doing him a little bit of favor by not putting attempted murder on him, by putting 6 charges on him. This guy's screwed. His life is over. And it's also interesting, he's a black man. So, you know, when a constable, one of the people who's not one of the good old boys, when a school resource officer, someone who has to be somewhat appealing to the kids because he is the public face for the youth of how the police officers are going to interact with them, it's like, he's not one of us, so let's put him through the cleaners. And based upon the nature of the conduct, which is clearly documented in the ongoing criminal, this is Steve Conrad, the police chief who chose Johann Stimley to run the Viper Squad, and Johann Stimley had killed a black man. And now he's running a Viper Squad, and a rogue military unit that goes around beating up people for no reason. That's who they are. That's who they are. And I determined to exercise my authority under KRS 15.520 to suspend Officer Hardin without pay. So you can shoot him. You know, Samantha Ramsey got shot, but Tyler Brockman was suspended with pay, so he actually got a paid vacation. Officer Jonathan Hardin, unfortunately, or fortunately, it depends on how you look at it, because this is an interesting case. This is in between worlds here. This is one of their own. And yet they're going to screw one of their own. They're going to sacrifice one of their own, pretend that they're good people, pretend that they're doing this right. And I would say the media attention has a lot to do with them acting properly. So, you know, but he was suspended without pay, whereas if you kill a person, you kill a 19-year-old white woman preschool teacher, you can murder somebody and you won't get... you know, you won't be suspended without pay. You'll get paid, and you'll get to get on the force. No harm done, no big deal. But in this case, finally, you know, basically, there is, you know, the LMPD, I would say, they're not, I don't like them. I don't care for them. I don't think they actually do their job, and I don't think they protect and serve the citizens. And so, this is, with the public outrage and with the people not liking the police, I think this is a PR stunt. This is just to say, look, we're doing what we're supposed to do. And it says, I determined to exercise my authority under KRS, right? Every time you go to the KRS, it's always some 15.520. So I guess that's saying that he's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. He's the police chief. And then he was initially held on a $25,000 bond on Friday morning, pleaded not guilty to punching and choking 2 students. He was removed from that school, suspended without pay, and then they said that they're going to sue him. So he's under a $25,000 bond. I don't know if he's still in jail or not. And so I feel bad for the guy in some respects because, I mean, he just made bad decisions. He did what the other cops are doing, and now he's getting in trouble for doing what all the other police officers do. And now he's in the jail. So this is poetic justice. This is fine. because he was assaulting people all the time. Now he has to go into jail. So he went from being an officer of the law that he could use violence wherever he wanted to now being in the jail, being under the bottom. So he went from like being on the top of society to the bottom of society. And it's going to be, it would be interesting to hear what his experiences are in jail. Because jail is not a nice place. People are really crappy to you there. They treat you like crap regardless if you're guilty or not. And they just treat you like animals. They treat you like dogs. And then they pretend like they're good people when they're not. Now, this isn't the only case that Jonathan Hardin has actually been involved with. These are just the two most recent ones. Fascinating. I actually remember this story because 2013, 2 years ago, there was Erica Buckner, who is a psychologist who worked for Gentleman's Academy. Said she was kicked out of the clinical psychology program at UofL after she reported students' allegations about Hardin's behavior and the behavior of other officers. She said that she was told she had ruined the relationship between the LMPD and the UofL. So because the psychologist had reported that this guy had been violent before along with other officers. So who are these other officers and what were they doing at the Gentleman's Academy and how come they weren't reprimanded immediately once the complaint had been issued? All a cop has to do is complain. Hey, I saw you jaywalking, now I get to beat you up and throw you in jail. Now, they said, well, he's beating people up and assaulting people for no reason. How come he didn't get immediate charge? How come he didn't immediately go through the system? It took 2 years. It took 2 more incidents of him punching a kid in the face and choking a kid out, you know, unconscious before they actually done something about it. And what they did, they said that he hit one student with a closed fist. So he had a closed fist and he just punched him, knocked him to the floor, choked another student until he lost consciousness. Oh, I guess that's the same stuff. Okay, but he was commended by the department for his work with the Gentleman's Academy summer program, but that's not, you know, that's not the case. Erica Buckner, she said that there was something wrong, and because, you know, instead of actually going after the criminals assaulting students, they fired Erica Buckner. That's UofL and the LMPD combining their powers, right? It's Papa John's, you know, it's owned by the right-wing corporatist. And, you know, they just don't want the negative publicity. Yeah, cops might have beat up some kid, but I don't, you know, as the president of UofL or as the police chief, I'm not going to acknowledge this. I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen. I'm going to try to sweep this under the rug. And I'm going to fire the psychologist who even reported any of this thing, who even reported on this thing. And so that's the culture of Louisville. That's the culture of Louisville. It's okay to beat up the students. It's okay to punch the kids in the face. Unfortunately, you know, he did it too many times. It caught up with him. But 2 years ago, it was totally acceptable. It was totally fine. And so that wasn't the only time. Now, this is some of my, I'm going to get to my recommendations for what we need in order to have more honest police officers. It says, last year, a lawsuit was brought by a police academy student who claimed that the officer physically abused him while he worked there. The then 14-year-old child claimed that Hardin pulled him out of bed by the neck at 3 in the morning and forced him to do push-ups for an hour without water. The case only came to light when the teenager confided in a mental health director, the psychologist, a director at the UofL, who was then dismissed from the university's clinical psychology department when she reported the incident to higher-ups. That's what you do. If you're a whistleblower, if you tell on one of their people, they will fire you. They fired a director of mental health at UofL. Hardin remains out of jail and bond and been suspended from the school without pay. So this isn't the first time, right? This isn't the first time he's a cop. That's what they do. They are violent, you know, psychopathic, barbaric savages on a day-to-day basis. That's what they do. That's what they do. They don't help situations. They escalate them and make them worse. They think they know, you know, this is, as a jury, this is what I think it is, and so therefore I'm going to enforce it with violence. And it doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. They go after the weak people. When a real criminal pops up, it's incredible how scared the cops get because they don't know how to deal with real criminals. Real people who don't care about the law or anybody else and doesn't mind hurting anybody in order to get their race. They don't know what to do with them. We had that kid, the Bonnie and Clyde kids who were running all over the place. They couldn't catch them. You know, they only beat up those who are obedient, those who do as they're told, and good, really poor, powerless people. That's why they're hitting students. That's why they're hitting kids. And for those people who are in favor of child abuse, are you in favor of cops beating up your children too? When does it stop? Does it ever stop? You're the one sitting there showing the whole world this is how you're supposed to treat your own damn child. So, Luke Cornett was in the 8th grade, and he said he grabbed me and he threw me down and he gave me threats. So, grabbing a 13-year-old, throwing him down, threatening him to put in the trunk of the car. You want me to put you in the trunk of the car? I'm going to put you in the trunk of the car if you don't do as I tell you. So, he was a victim of the LMPD resource officer, Jonathan Hardin, too. He was going to take me home, but I had to ride inside the trunk because I wasn't good enough to ride inside his back seat. Only his dog is. The 8th grader was never taken home, but says the threat still scared him. My son actually called me at work, and he was crying. If he was going to intimidate my son in front of me, then what he'd do to him if I wasn't there. Cornett's parents say they unsuccessfully reached out to the Board of Education after complaining to LMPD. She says she received a letter saying no action would be taken. Oh, well, that's nice. So he's in the school to promote a positive environment for the students, and based on what's come to light so far, Officer Hardin has a problem with this area. Yeah, big time. The police have a problem with this area, and you know, because they don't care if the students get jobs and do well for themselves. They only look at the people as possible criminals that they might have to beat up and throw in jail. They're not there to help anybody. They're there to ruin your life, and they're not protecting and serving, and it's not Mayberry. So again, like I said, there's video of him choking the kid out. You see that he fell down to the ground. You see that he gets back up and then chokes the kid, and you see the kid actually passing out. We don't see the kid getting punched in the face or any of the other complaints on the video, but that's not to say that it didn't happen. I mean, there is surveillance everywhere. What happens to these surveillance tapes? They're recording 24/7 until all of a sudden an incident happens, and then they're not recording anything. So here's some other reports. Her jaw was broken by a school resource officer who accused her of carrying mace to a brutal beating of her student using profanity. Brutality at the hands of officers stationed at schools over teenage misbehaviors becoming far too common. Instead of trips to the principal's office in Police State USA, it's trips to the jail or the hospital. So what should we do? Well, we need justice for Samantha Ramsey. We need Shop with the Cop mandatory end of the year celebrations, criminalize enhancement charges, establish county civilian review boards, codify proper procedure for cop watch, body cameras mandatory on all officers, Bill of Rights, Kentucky Constitution, new laws and annual legal assessments administered so the police uphold the sacred democratic tradition of the rule of law, protect the Second Amendment, and all public surveillance cameras must be fully accessible to the public 24/7. All public surveillance cameras. Who has, access to these surveillance cameras? That's important because they're watching everything. Big Brother is watching you. And so if we have access, we the people have access to what Big Brother is watching, then when the cops are assaulting people, they can be held accountable too. The camera shows the truth. And usually it's whoever starts the fight. So that's my second plank of my platform is police accountability. We need to have police accountability. The police are out of control. They're not protecting and serving. They are doing their jobs being revenue generators for the state. That's their main function in Ferguson, Missouri. 75% of the residents in Ferguson had arrest warrants, so they're just passing out arrest warrants left and right to everybody. And so they're not doing right. So how do you make people do right? You got to have accountability. That's where the County Civilian Review Board comes in. So regular citizens take the complaints from the general public about police brutality, and then once you get so many complaints, all complaints would be investigated. And once you get several complaints on a person, then you knock them out, just like you did with Jonathan Hardin. Jonathan Hardin's career is over. He is absolutely ruined. And good. The LMPD, they just like with David Whitlock, they eat their own as soon as it becomes politically, amenable to their desires, to their, to their wishes, and then that's all she wrote. So Jonathan Hardin is going to get what he deserves, but I think he's probably going to get too much of what he deserves. I don't know, 5 years in jail or something, I think seems to be fair punishment, maybe less. He's getting fired when Mattingly McKenzie shot Michael Newby. He didn't get fired. He got paid to step down. They give him $50,000 to step down. And so he quit. So you kill a person, you don't get in trouble, you actually get paid a year's pay so you can move on to something else. But with Jonathan Hardin, they didn't do that. They didn't pay him off. They didn't protect him. They didn't cover him up. They let him be eaten by the wolves. So this is the LMPD throwing one of their own to the wolves to show, hey, we're a good department. We do what's right. We're honest, good people. And it's total bullshit. It's totally public relations. This is a cover-up of their own culture that they employ and implement on a day-to-day basis. You know, if we can get some Serpicos in there, if we can get people who care about truth and justice, then perhaps we can actually see some change. It's about being moral. It's about being right and doing right. And it's about solving the situation and de-escalating it, not, making it worse.